back in the day, used to do a few over things like Illuminate, other products that are long gone, but it's fun to do a presentation to you folks over Zoom. So just to give you some context, my name is Eric Tremblay. I'm the manager of the engineering, teaching, and learning team right here at Queen's University, and we're in Kingston, Ontario, which is at a balmy 8 degrees Celsius today. So I'm very jealous of the Kansas folks who are almost in summer. Like, it's beautiful over there, really, if you ask me. I just wanted to start with a picture, and you'll get the sense from this particular presentation that humans mean a lot to me. And this is the current complement of the engineering, teaching, and learning team. And what I want to emphasize about these folks is I'll be telling you throughout this presentation a few things about these folks. But one thing I want to emphasize right here is that we do things a little bit differently in this team. We have a couple of philosophies in here that really help us be effective. First of all, we try to instill a sort of a sense of urgency and a startup culture and a vibrancy inside the space. So I like to tell people that when you come in here, you might feel a little bit different than how you feel when you visit other places at this particular university. To give you some context, our university is old. And by I mean old, I mean the age is in 3 digits. And so there's a lot of history, a lot of heritage around campus. And the kind of environment that we're trying to foster is one that's a little bit more modern and a little bit more timely and very, very sort of vibrant and cutting edge. And so we really do try to work very mobile. So the team here, although they are co-located, will often work off-site. And off-site can mean anything from someone in a professor's office on campus, or it can mean off-campus and even in the surrounding areas. We often do travel in a radius of about 2 or 3 hours around the campus when we're working with our subject matter experts and our course authors, because we can reach different people and we can bring those sort of pieces of expertise into the course design. Now, because we're very mobile and we're very sort of active in how we move around, we need to have special communication tools and also special data tracking tools that help us understand how we are doing our job. So we use things like Slack. So some of you may be familiar with Slack, just to sort of cut down on the email, because like most of you, we're all sort of have a clogged email box sort of disease, and Slack really helps us keep that down a little bit. We also use, I mentioned data tracking, and also the way that we do communicate. So we use some project management philosophies that include a Kanban board, an actual physical board that's found in the office, but we also use things like teamwork.com for time tracking, and we will also use Trello board for sort of micro tasking and for understanding better who's working on stuff and having visibility. One of the things we found in the early days when we're doing a ton of concurrent activity is that keeping people updated on the element that you're working on right now is a real important piece. And one way to keep updated is to actually go and talk to the person, but sometimes that can get a little tedious. So having more than one way where you can actually find out what's going on is a real sort of win. Now, I want to sort of give you full disclosure here, that we have a sort of a vision statement, if you will, that is to foster a culture of effective pedagogical practice to enable a transformative student learning experience in the Faculty of Engineering and Applied Science. And this is sort of at its core everything that is driving us. And we didn't make this up, and I'm very proud to say that we didn't make this up. We took the lead of the university. Elements of this statement are found in the strategic plan for the university. And if it's good enough for the principal, it's great for us. We definitely want to be aligned with how the administration is doing things centrally, even though we are a faculty embedded resource in engineering. And just to give you a little sense of the history, so we've really been an incarnation that's been evolving, and we started very small in 2014. And if you take a look at this particular chart, the green bars, which are found at the bottom of each of these columns, is the number of online courses that we've designed. So it's either been a brand new course or in some cases been a complete full redesign. And then what you're going to see sneaking in 2017 right here, I'm imagining you guys can see my mouse, right?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So what you see the blue bars sneaking in here in 2017 is when we started to do blended. So these are when we started to roll out blended courses. And then likewise, we started to roll out actually fully designed face-to-face courses that we worked on as well. So we've really sort of diversified the kind of course design activities that we've been working on. We really built our reputation on online learning, but now we're fully spread out across any modality that's involved in the faculty. And then the red stacked bar that you're going to, or orange probably, that you're going to see in these years are the number of courses that we've previously designed that are being re-offered again. In some cases, more than once in a semester. And I like to put this particular bar because it gives me a sense of the impact that we do over time. So if in this short period of time, we've been able to impact this many number of courses, it's a good thing. And it augurs well for the future, certainly, that we can reuse and adapt this material going forward. Now, I want to come back to the picture. Now, this is where I want to turn it over to you, those people that are maybe not too shy and want to say something on a microphone. But when you first saw the picture on the first slide that I showed you, what was your first feeling when you saw these people? I can't see it through the webcam, so you're going to have to just speak up.
I have to keep saying. Terry says young.
Young. Okay, that's a good observation. I like to be, I'm 49 years old, so if you call me young, that's great.
Diversity.
I missed that last one, sorry.
Diversity.
Diversity, for sure. Anything else?
I just would say very welcoming.
Yeah, very welcoming. Now, I did a similar talk for the Faculty of Education a while back, and that was the first thing that they put out. They said welcoming. And I really like that because that's actually what I'm going for. I wanted these words to come out when I wanted to show this particular photo, because that's really what we try to embody. Okay, we actually have a physical space on campus. It's a main floor space, and we have a doors open policy. And we're constantly talking about it as a team that we need to have smiles all the time. Because regardless of what kind of question or what kind of concern or what kind of problem someone is going to bring when they walk through the door, there's a certain degree of courage to do this. And we have to meet that courage with positivity, friendliness, and a real welcoming attitude. It's one of our big strengths. And other things that people figure out once they've been here for a while is that we're very client focused, we're extremely collaborative, and we try our best to really be accessible. And that's, I think, one of our great winning combinations. So what we do is we run an open plan office. So the open plan office is designed like this so that if someone walks in, they can ask anybody a question. So the level of training that people have in the room are very cross-trained on a lot of different things. And so it doesn't matter what the actual individual role of the person in the office is, they can answer a very wide range of questions. And we're also constantly reminding ourselves that when someone walks in the door and they say, oh, they're looking for Eric. If Eric's not there, you don't just say, oh, I'll have Eric call you back or reach out to you. You say, Eric's not here, but can I help you? And it's amazing how many times that is just a winning approach, because someone will say, okay, and they give you the question, and the person who's receiving them in the moment can actually answer that question. So getting their question answered very quickly, very efficiently is really has been, again, a super win for us. Now, I talked about open plan office. So the core of the staff sit here. You can't see in the picture, but there's some other staff here. And then on the other side of this mini wall, there's another collaborative space. And actually, I'm speaking today from on the other side of that glass panel right here in the corner. There's another feature in this room, which is very interesting. We have our own production studio. So this particular studio is light controlled and sound controlled, and instructors can actually book it. So they can come in here. We have the campus's only light board as well. So when we do our light board filming, we do it all in here. So our operators are found in this office, and they just easily go in there and support the instructors when they need help. So it's a real one-stop shop with respect to how we do business. Now, this particular furniture are the hydraulic desks as well. So if someone just walks in, an instructor doesn't have to hunch over a staff member's desk to get something figured out. We just, at one touch of a button, the desk raises up to collaboration height. It's really easy. And we've got whiteboards on the wall and displays strategically placed on the wall, again, to sort of maximize the vertical collaboration with the horizontal sort of collaboration piece. So if you ever visit Queen's University, I'd strongly encourage you to come and visit this particular space. It's in Dupuy Hall, again, main floor, and we got a lot of traffic because there's a parking garage not far, so it really helps. Now, the engineering teaching and learning team that I've been talking about right now is not the only thing or not the only way that we connect with instructors in the given departments. We also use embedded teaching and learning fellows, and I'm proud to say that one of them is in this presentation right now as a participant. That's Stacy. I didn't coach Stacy on this, but I don't know if Stacy, if you want to say a couple of words about what it's like to be an engineering, an embedded teaching and learning fellow in the Department of Mechanics and Materials. I don't know if you want to do that, Stacy.
Sure, I can give it a shot.
Awesome.
Yes, I'm Stacy, and I'm, as Eric said, one of these embedded teaching and learning fellows. I'm embedded in the Department of Mechanical and Materials Engineering. I started about just over a year ago. And I must say, when I first started, I was struggling a little bit to try and figure out what is my role in this place and how do I fit in the larger picture. At the beginning, I kind of saw myself as sort of a middle person, like I'm embedded in the department. I'm rubbing shoulders with different instructors all day, walking in the hallways here. But then I also have a lot of connections with Eric's team and the other resources on campus. And so I found that oftentimes instructors who may not approach Eric, may not walk over to the building where Eric and Eric's team are located and walk in those doors. They will come and knock on my door or ask me a question in the hallway. And with that, I can then reach out to Eric's team or the other resources that I think might be valuable to this person and connect them. So that's what I've found in my role. And I think that's really interesting because I think a lot of those things wouldn't happen without a role such as this.
Yeah, I agree. It just sort of brings it to the next level. I mean, no solution that you can place with respect to educational development is a panacea. But by having some diversity in the kind of solution sets that we can provide, I feel we can reach more people. So Stacy, as she mentioned, she's really doing educational, at its core, she's doing educational development work embedded within the department. And it's great to have that feeling of connection between the engineering, teaching, and learning team and the department. And as Stacy mentioned, in the case of mechanical materials, I mean, their building's actually a little bit far from us over here in the engineering, teaching, and learning team. So she can bridge that gap, that physical gap that's present as well. So let me tell you, again, going back to the picture, let me tell you a little bit about sort of the roles involved in this particular group. So if you do visit our space, you'll come by and you'll see there are no university degrees hanging on the wall. Okay, and the place is not segmented. So the people that have their master's in education aren't in one section of the room, and the people that don't have their master's in education or have some other credential, they're not segmented into a different part of the room. Everyone is integrated. And as a client, when you're visiting this particular place, you don't know necessarily who's who when you walk in the door. All you really know is everybody is smiling and everybody's ready to answer your question. But it is important to know that if you're interested in ever building a team like this, that diversity in roles really comes in handy. So I'll just give you a little bit of insight into the roles that are in this particular place. I won't go over the qualifications in detail, but it suffices to say that 5 of these people have a master's in education and only 1 is a professional engineer. So you don't necessarily have to have discipline-specific knowledge to be effective in this setting, but you do have to have a lot of pedagogical expertise, and expertise working in higher education really, really helps. So first, we have students embedded in the section. So this fellow's name is Miles, and he has been an amazing asset to us for the last year. He's been with us since September, basically embedded into the section and helping us make design decisions. Ultimately, we're building courses that are destined for students. And if these students can help us make decisions in the design of these particular courses, then that is a real win. Now, the number of students that we have attached to the section varies from semester to semester, but we try to have at least 1. And it's that perspective that we get from the students that really helps us understand that how we connect that to our vision, right? Our vision is about students. And so we need to put them first when we're making design decisions about courses. So the second role that we have here is the assessment analytics lead, and this is Narissa. And Narissa is our professional engineer, and she's a fantastic asset to us. So not only is she helping instructors with the formulation of complex rubrics for design courses, but she's also the person in the faculty office who's charged with collecting all the data in support of accreditation and collecting all the evidence that we can then turn around and put back into the instructor's hands when we have to make design decisions for how to modify courses in the future. So having her inside this particular section has been amazing because it really links the data to the pedagogy piece. And so she's a fantastic asset. We have instructional designers. So depending on the time of year and who's on staff, we'll have 3 or 4 of them on staff. So there's 4 of them shown in this particular picture. And these folks, as most of you probably know, most instructional designers have their master's in education and have been working in the field for some time. Here in engineering, we give our instructional designers, they really creep into the educational development role. So it's kind of a hybrid role between educational development, instructional design, and of course, we also charge these folks with the project management on top of it. So these are very, very strong individuals that have a lot of talent, and they do a lot of the shepherding and the guiding with respect to projects, whether it's again, an online course, a blended course, or a face-to-face course. They will help us a lot. And then the media personnel. So we need media specialists involved, whether they're professional filmmakers like the fellow down in the bottom. This is one of our colleagues that has tons of experience actually making movies. And then over here in the corner, Dan Clark, who's a professional game designer. So we brought Dan on staff about a year ago because of his expertise with virtual reality. So he helps us bring that sort of edge of virtual reality and augmented reality to the group as well. And so we have all kinds of diverse expertise on media with respect to just straight HTML, to the videography piece, and to everything in between. And again, the fact that these folks are integrated into our operation is critical. And some of them have a very unique sort of set of credentials. I just want to highlight Rob Birchie, who's this fellow right here. Again, you can't tell by his unassuming nature that he actually has 4 university degrees, all from Queen's University, and one of them is a master's in education. So even though he's a media specialist, it's very clear to him the importance of designing media and how it needs to connect to the pedagogical goal. So the idea of constructive alignment and understanding the learning outcomes that you're trying to serve before you choose your media is the leadership that he provides to the group. Now, I'll give you some insight into the process that we're particularly using over here. And it's a process that is sort of an amalgam of a bunch of different processes out there. I myself have been working in the field of course design since 2002, really. And my first assignment was to work for the Canadian military. So in the Canadian military, we used a very standard ADDIE model. It was the model that was there. And I won't deny that a strong flavor of what we do here in engineering is scaffolded on top of the ADDIE model, if you're familiar with that jargon. But what we've done here is try to make it a little bit more agile, try to make it a little bit more responsive, and ensure that there's a lot of iterative feedback back and forth inside it. So we've broken it down in a simplistic way into these 4 phases. So at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see the analysis phase. This is where we meet with the course authors and the rest of the teaching team, and we talk about some of the factors that are going to enable our design or even constrain our design. And then we build a course scoping document, and this document becomes basically like a blueprint for how to move forward in this. And I should say that this entire process takes about 8 months from start to finish. That's our sort of how we talk about it. Sometimes it takes a little longer, depending on, usually on course author availability, and sometimes it's a little shorter, depending on when the first day of class is. There's all kinds of constraints around that. Once we get out of the analysis phase, we move to phase 2, which is what we call trial development. And in this particular case, what we do is we just basically pick 1 week of the course. And with that 1 week in mind, what we do is we develop it from start to finish. So what does that mean? This is where we actually sit down and talk about the technology. Previously in phase 1, we haven't talked about the technology. All we've talked about are the pedagogical goals. What are the learning outcomes that we want our students to achieve, and where do we need them to be by the end of the course or even by the end of the week? In the second phase, now we really get down to the decision-making and the design piece, where we'll say, given the goals that we need to achieve in this week, what are the approaches that we need to take? What technologies do we need to leverage? What affordances do we have? If we're designing a face-to-face course, there is a set of affordances. If we're designing a blended course, there's yet another set of affordances. And so the decision-making is done at that point. Then also, for those people that are working in teams, which is all of us, you know that when you're assembling a team around a table, what you have to do is you have to give some time for the team formation, the team dynamics to come into play. And really, I've found over time that phase 2 is the most fun time for this. There's a lot of, getting the workflows in place, a lot of we try something doesn't work, we adjust, we evolve. And every project turns very, very unique by the experiences that the team has through phase 2. Phase 2 usually takes about a month. And then we move to phase 3. Phase 3, I call it, the rinse and repeat sort of phase, where you take all the lessons learned out of phase 2 and your team is now performing really well. And now it's just about, okay, listen, all the stuff that we have ahead of us to do, we're just going to go ahead and do it now inside this 5-month time frame. And again, everything's iterative. So we're always looking at the lessons learned in every piece and trying to apply that and evolve over time. And then phase 4 is actually, I think, the hardest phase. Okay, not because it's cognitively difficult to accomplish. It's because a lot of people work quite a bit in phase 3 and they find themselves at the first day of class before phase 3 is finished. And so that means that phase 4 usually gets a very poor amount of attention. And I try really hard to emphasize to folks that we absolutely need to do phase 4. Phase 4, we call it final production. We also call it quality assurance. We have all kinds of buzzwords for it. But what we do for us in engineering is we will ask someone else in the engineering teaching and learning team to spend a few hours with the course, someone who's unrelated to the course, who has not been on the project team. And that person with brand new eyes will see all kinds of different stuff that necessarily the project team didn't see. From your simple typo to have you thought about adding this pedagogical support, and every sort of piece of feedback in between. After we have that feedback and the team considers the feedback and integrates all that feedback, then we go to someone with discipline-specific knowledge. So we approach the department that the course belongs to, and they usually will appoint someone in that department, and they'll ask maybe a half a day of their time, maybe 2-3 hours, again, to go through the course and make a commentary with respect to sort of the discipline-specific information that's inside the course. Now, that has been extremely valuable as well. That information comes back to the team, and then the team can decide to do with it what it wishes. Sometimes there are things that can be done really, fixes that can be done really quickly for the first day of class, because usually you're not far from it at this point. Other times there are sometimes, philosophical pieces of feedback that are philosophical in nature, and these particular pieces of feedback, the team can decide, okay, really good feedback, we can't implement this in the next 10 days. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to table this feedback. We're going to run the course. We're going to get all the feedback from the students, and then we'll meet again at the afterwards and do like a proper post-mortem, and then we'll incorporate all those multiple feedbacks together to decide how we're going to iteratively improve the course moving forward. And I will say we do a very well done post-mortem where we get data from multiple sources, and I'll talk about that in a bit. So I've been alluding to a table, where people actually get together. Well, if you think about this particular graph here, and if this orange circle or yellow circle, depending how colorblind you are, if you think about this as a table, these are the sort of stakeholders that we try to bring to every project. It's not a perfect situation. Sometimes we have projects that have more or less people on them, but we try to bring these sort of pieces in it. So some of these you're going to recognize because I've already talked about them. So somebody who's giving media expertise, there's going to be a student on the team, which is useful. There's going to be someone who has some kind of educational development role in that. Sometimes that comes from an embedded teaching and learning fellow. Sometimes that comes from someone else on the team. We're going to have course authors. Often what we found is we have a mix of courses now. We have some with multiple course authors. We have some with a single course author. There's all kinds of combinations that we're dealing with. Depending on the course, we'll get some input from the librarian, because especially around information literacy or discipline-specific content that can be found in the library, sometimes it can be very useful to do this. If we're developing for a whole program And we have done that here in engineering, where a program basically partners with the engineering teaching and learning team early and says, we have a series of courses to build, and we'd like to do this. Then we invite the program coordinator. And I will tell you that there's even people outside of engineering that have hired us to provide them this service and to launch an entire program. And what they do is they supply a program coordinator, and that person joins our meeting. And it's very, very valuable, because the information that the program coordinator can learn during the design and decision-making process can really inform them in their future task of having to advise students whether or not this program or this course is right for them. Instructional designer. So that goes without saying that you need the sort of pedagogical expertise and that sort of grounding on the pedagogy. But these folks are all also your project manager. So they're trying their best to keep everything on schedule, on budget, and to come in time for the first day of class. And then I put content contributor here. And most of you folks will know that in North America, there's an increasing trend now to sort of bring multiple voices or multiple perspectives into a given course. And so whether this content contributor is somebody who's in a large urban center a couple hours away from us here at Queen's that we'll get them on video, get some perspective, and we'll get it inside the course, or whether that person is actually maybe even a grad student here on campus already, just having another voice in the course or another perspective in the course can be great. So we often do make a lot of digital media objects that involve people from the community or other people from the discipline into the course. Now, this is actually an old slide, and I haven't thrown it away yet because I still really believe it. Quality is really the primary driver here in engineering with respect to the engineering teaching and learning team. We really try to work hard on quality. When we first started making online courses, people said, well, I'm not sure that can really be done in engineering very well. So we right away tried to get ourselves some reinforcements, and so we adopted a philosophy that is built around the quality matters philosophy. So everybody on the engineering teaching and learning team has been trained on the quality matters system. And actually there's two of us who have certified peer reviewer status, which means other universities and other colleges around in North America are basically hiring us to review their courses. And for those people that are, many of you probably already know Quality Matters, but for those that don't know, it provides basically a set of evidence-based standards that you can use when you're building your blended learning courses and your online learning courses. And these particular standards are derived from what comes out of the educational literature. So, and they're also written in such a way that it's very understandable for most instructors. So we try to use these particular standards to guide discussion around recommendations. So, the classic one is constructive alignment. We've all met instructors that have been like, I don't really think I need to articulate my learning outcomes. Well, we tell them like the educational literature are really supportive of this. And actually, if I do pull out the Quality Matters standards, constructive alignment is talked about on several of the standards in this system. So it can really help us. I'll also give you just a personalized feeling that I have here in engineering. It turns out it's a really easy sell because engineers understand about standards in their discipline. Like if you buy a screw at Canadian Tire or at Home Depot or something like that, why does that screw fit into that nut? It's because there are international standards about how things fit together from a machining perspective. And, standards are something that you can really rely upon, and it can really provide you a starting point for conversation, certainly. So if anybody needs to know more about Quality Matters and how we use it here at Queen's, I'd be happy to help you. We have an institutional license. We also have a great philosophy here of cyclical improvement. Again, in my past lifetime when I was working for the Canadian military, there was a lot of feeling a long time ago that, okay, we could just do a really good job on building this course one time, and then we'll just like put it on the shelf, and then we'll just kind of like reuse this thing. And it'll be great because we won't have to invest any energy in it year over year because it'll be great for like 6 years. And in fact, let's put an expiry date on that particular course so that we know when the 6 years is up and we have to work on it. Well, that's absolutely not the way we're doing it here in engineering. We have a clear understanding that there's lessons learned that come out of every delivery, and you just can't waste the opportunity to collect that data and to interpret that data and to improve, right? You folks are all in education, know there's no magic bullets, right? It's all just a series of small adjustments. There's a real tension, a real push and pull tension around the decision making, the design decisions that you make at all times. So when professors work with us, they may work with us for 8 months or maybe 12 months on building a particular course. We don't just say, okay, you're done, here's your certificate, have a great day. That's not how it works. Basically, we help them all the way through the preparation phase. We support them during the delivery of the course. And then, of course, we collect all the data and we help them do the analysis at the end. And it's that sort of, continuum and that cycle of support that we provide that really is a value add here, because it's going to mean that we're going to be, fostering that continuous improvement philosophy here in engineering. Now, I just want to take a couple more moments just to tell you that what is sort of the number one questions, okay? When people walk in the door here, they might not be associated with a project. They might not be associated with something that is an ongoing relationship for 8 to 12 months. They just might have a question or a concern or a small ad hoc problem. What's the number one question that we get? Well, we get people coming in that want to talk about assessments, okay? They want to talk about assessment redesign. They want to talk about what are the things that are available to them. And all these buzzwords that you see down here are probably the same buzzwords that you're being approached with. There's a little bit of jargon in this one. This is from an interaction perspective: learner to learner, learner to instructor, learner to content. So all these particular buzzwords are really out there, and it's a challenge of the instructional designer to really have, to carve out some time and to spend it with the instructor to get an idea of what the instructional outcomes are articulated as, and then crafting assessments that can be authentic and can support these particular facets here. So we do a lot of work on assessment redesign. Again, Narissa's position, which was the assessment and analytics lead, has further strengthened our ability to do this. And then purpose-built video is probably another very, very strong thing that we get asked. We've had pretty much since we started this section, we've had a feeling or a philosophy of really making humanized video. So we get a lot of people that have done this with us in the past and are now really interested in doing more. So we get so many repeat customers. So we do all kinds of videography and all kinds of digital learning objects, your standard voiceover PowerPoint things, but we'll do some live action video. We'll do the 360-degree spherical video. I mentioned we also have the Lightboard on campus, so we'll do quite a bit of Lightboard. And we're starting to get ourselves into some what we call high impact animations. And then one thing that we'll do is we'll actually mash up. So some of our instructors are really challenging us. I'll tell you that I have the greatest job in the world because I basically almost say yes to everything, okay? People walk in the door and they say, can we do this? And I say yes, and I figure out how to do it later. And so that's why I love my job. And we have some very smart instructors who have come to us and said, well, what if my learning goal is like this, like this? Can I mix and match some of these modalities into making a super learning object or a learning object that's just not one style? And we say yes. And so we're starting now to do mashups of some of these styles to try to, again, just cognitively guide the student in the right direction for the things that we're trying to achieve. And it's challenging, but we love to be challenged. So that's the sort of attitude that I've kind of instilled in our team is to say yes to things that instructors talk about and then figure out how to do it later. So I've been talking a lot here. Would anybody like to pause and ask me any questions or anything? I'm also going to task away from this presentation while I do that. Everybody's quiet.
I have a question. So we have a center here, and I'm just thinking, we have a really small staff. We have like 3. Technically, we only have 2 full-time people, and then 2 of us are temporary postdocs. So, I mean, starting with such a small staff, if we wanted to incorporate some of these elements that you all do, like what would you say would be the best place to start, given those limited resources?
Yeah, I mean, we had the same problem, right? I showed you on our growth chart that we didn't start right away doing 50 things, right? We started and did 2.
Yeah.
That's because our staff was very small. I was the first staff member hired. And then when the second staff member came around, that was great. We really did start small and really played to our strengths. And one of the things that was really great for us is we've always had this philosophy that the service that we provide is not a remedial service. I don't go into a department head's office and say, listen, if you have people that are having problems teaching with their teaching style or teaching practice, tell them to come and talk to us. That's not what we're doing, right? What we're doing instead is we look around for early adopters, right? We connect with early adopters and we connect with people that are excited about teaching and learning, and connecting with them at the scale that you're at. So if you have a small amount of staff, you don't want to connect with 50 individuals because that might be overwhelming, but you have to start somewhere. Connect with some of them and try to be a little bit equitable in how you do that. So connect with some of them across the diversity in your faculty or school. So we have 5 departments here in engineering. So we've tried to work over time with some contacts in every single department. Then what happens is time goes by, and time is really your friend in this situation, because with time, people actually talk to each other in the hallway. So whether it's the Department of Mining or the Civil Department, all of a sudden when someone in that department sees what their colleague is doing down the hallway, over time, that's when all of a sudden you'll start to get not only repeat customers, but you'll get a few new people that'll come through the door as well. And it'll scale sort of organically from that perspective. And it might be more manageable for you depending on your scale. Scale and demand is a huge thing. We face it here in the engineering teaching and learning team. Right now, our team is working on 30 concurrent projects.
Wow.
It's a lot of projects. And if I tried to get business, I could probably get another 25 more. So my job is I have to kind of quell the business and kind of like temper the flow.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad you made that point, because that's a big emphasis here too, is that, we don't want the perception of our center to be remedial or you're in trouble, you have to come fix things here. Yeah. That's not the point. It's about innovation. So I'm really glad that you said that too. Yeah,
it makes all the difference, because there are some old perceptions out there. I think they're somewhat outdated, that the centers for teaching and learning across North America have had some remedial sort of goals. That may have been like that a generation ago, but I really feel today that it's much more of an enabling type force on campus than it is anything else.
And then one more question with your timeline, the 8 months, is that 8 months from like start to finish with the design and then they just go on, or are they still coming back after that 8 months and talking about other things like assessment and whatnot? So what does that 8 months cover?
Yeah, we try to put everything inside the 8 months. The reality is, there's all kinds of competing priorities. So sometimes we do find ourselves on the first day of class and the course is only 90% built. So the discussion needs to keep going, right? Everything under the sun has occurred. Like we've had some interesting projects where we've been done the entire course design, everything, 5 months before the first day of class.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing. So now everyone can just take a break, and then we'll re-ramp up in the week before class and get all the student services in place, and then we'll support the delivery. So we've seen that all the way to, okay, it's a blended learning course and we're just going to work 1 week ahead of the students, and it's going to be, stress zone. We've seen everything from A to Z in that perspective.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are some realities in here. Not everything is perfectly according to plan. So I was asked to make a 45-minute presentation, but I just want to steal a couple more moments, if you'll permit me. I placed on the screen here one of the learning objects that we're using in an introduction to mining course, because I'm pretty proud of it, and I think it really helps. This here is a crosscut of a mine found in Northern Ontario. So you can see, for example, this particular shaft, how it goes almost 2 kilometers deep or 2,000 meters deep. And shaft number 1 only goes to about the 1 kilometer level, for example. And this is a map of the ore body that's found inside this particular mine. And previous to having this kind of object that you're seeing right now, this is a web object. I will give you the link for this. Okay, so I'll pass it on to Blair, and Blair, maybe you can distribute this exact link. It's not password protected, it's nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what this is a fantastic, instead of teaching it out of a textbook of what this mine looks like, you now have a series of videos that they're embedded locally inside this map. So this is what it looks like on the surface of the Earth inside the instructor's office. In this case, the instructor is actually a staff at this mine. And then the instructor will show us the process of going all the way down into the cage, into the shaft, and then reaching strategic places inside the mine where we could display what was actually going on. Now, we brought some technology down with us. We brought a 360-degree spherical camera, and we could actually capture some video there. And most people probably know what 360 video is here, but the idea is that if students are using a cell phone, or even if they're using a desktop, while the instructor is speaking and making a presentation, they can actually move around the field. So they can look up, they can look down, they can look all around while the instructor is making a presentation to get a better sense of the environment. And it was such a win in mining for us, because it's very difficult for us to bring the students 2 kilometers underground. But we could spend one afternoon capturing a bunch of information, and then they could get a real sense of the lighting levels underground, the special challenges that are found underground. And I mean, this just blows the socks off of learning from a picture in a textbook. And it was just a real win for us to have these kind of learning objects. I'm not going to play the videos here because over Zoom it's going to get all laggy and things like that. But again, I will send you this particular web link, and you can click on all these little buttons here, and you can get a sense of some of the videos. I'm also going to send you a second web link. Now, this web link, again, as I mentioned, is all public. And I want you to think of this particular web link like a menu in a restaurant. So some things in a menu in a restaurant, some of them are less expensive than others, and some of them taste better than others. And that's what you're going to see here, because each one of these buttons will open up another type of video. And it'll give you a sense of some of the diverse types of videos that we've done here in the engineering, teaching, and learning team. Here's, for example, the lightboard video. So if you're interested in seeing what a pane of glass can do to enable an instructor to develop, let's say, a piece of mathematics or whatnot, then you'll see it with the lightboard. I talked about some high impact animations. I'll just highlight this one right here that you'll probably want to take a look at this one. This is a situation where we have a workflow where an instructor had a presentation that was already being delivered in class. And they said, well, I want to make a great learning object out of it. So why can't I just take all my slides from class and just do a straight PowerPoint presentation and just throw it up there? It's so easy. Well, it's true. It would be so easy. But is there another way to augment this? Basically, what we did is to make it easy for the instructor, we just had them narrate the PowerPoints. We took all the audio, then we took all the slides, and then we did the presentation design. So we did all the animations in the background. We strategically took elements out of the slides, but we added our own elements into it to try to tell a story, try to keep the students cognitively engaged, try to keep everything short and compact. And then we do a first cut and we send it back to the instructor, and all we do is cross our fingers. We just cross our fingers and hope the instructor likes what we're doing. And I'll tell you, more times than you might bet, I get instructors that call me and say, you just make me look good. So we've had a lot of success with this kind of approach. So I'll send you these links so that you can click around and you can have a look at the different types of videos that we've done, and just to get a breath. If you're ever interested in something you see here and you want to know more, because every one of these videos has a story. And as I mentioned, when you're doing in phase 1 of our projects, we're always thinking about the pedagogical outcomes that we want to achieve. And then when we reach phase 2, that's when we take an outcome and we just choose the best technology for it. It's never one size fits all. It's all about choosing the best technology for that, whether it's, we need to do an in-class session, whether it's we need to do an in-class session that's lecture-based, or something that needs to be active learning, teamwork-based, or whether we need a digital media object. We always ask that question. And so there's quite a bit of diversity with respect to the objects that are found in a course as a result. So this particular page here will give you a sense of the things that we've done to date. I also emphasize to people when I work with them that don't let this be a box for you. Don't let this be a finite number of choices. Challenge us to build something different that's not on here, because as I said earlier, we'll say yes, and then we'll figure out how to do it later. So anyway, that's all I have. Hopefully I gave you a little bit of sense in how we work here in the engineering, teaching, and learning team, and how we support instructors in sort of enabling their teaching and learning practice.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to start my video again so you're not the only one with video. You can use the chat box or audio.
Yeah, I'm not looking at the chat box, so if someone sees anything, let me know. No question, never in a good song.
You're fine. No, that was great. I mean, that's such a different, well, we have something called CODAL here at the Center for Online Distance Learning. So a lot of the stuff you do is like similar to what they do, some of it. And so we're always just trying to utilize them to the best that we can. But this is great. I really like the example you showed with, I'm a geologist, so I just liked the mining example.
Yeah, for sure. So here's a great question for Ryan. How do you afford the team? It's leadership. Okay, it takes a lot of, again, courage and fortitude for the executive team of this particular faculty to say that not only will we be a world-class research institution, but we will also pay the same amount of attention to the teaching and learning. And so it's fantastic. So we have to thank the chain of command for that, from the associate dean all the way up to the dean, and including the entire executive team, for really saying and writing it into our strategic documents that teaching and learning needs resources. And one of the ways to enable instructors is to provide them support.
Anyone else? Let's see.
Oh, there we go. Ryan, are there any similar teams on campus? And is there a central CTL? So yes, there is a central CTL for sure. They were built in 1992, and they're quite a bit more established than this team that I'm managing here that was only built about 5 years ago. The central CTL acts as sort of like a central body and coordinates several of the teams on campus. There is more than one. So there's a very large team in arts and science, and there's also a very large team in health science. So there's 3 very large teams on campus that are all pretty much doing a variation of what I described here. And they're doing a lot of teaching and learning support. Queen's, as a strategic goal at Queen's, is really to pay attention to the teaching and learning piece, as well as pay attention to the research. And it really shows. So we try to coordinate together as a group. And so that becomes a bit the challenge, right? Where we'll sort of have these coordinating bodies and a lot of communication time across these bodies just to get a sense of what's happening on campus. Invariably, there's some duplication. So there's some efficiency issue. There are some campuses out there that have sort of everything all in one, and they can gain some efficiencies by doing that. We've sort of sacrificed that level of efficiency for a more personalized experience. So personalized, meaning the instructor in engineering walks into an engineering building to get the support that they need. There's pros and cons to both models.
Okay, well, yes, send me those links. I will be sure to send them out to the rest of the group. And again, we'll be posting this up on our YouTube page so you can watch it again if you want to revisit anything or wanted to take some more notes. So thank you so much. That was fantastic. It's really cool to get to see the work that you all are doing.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. And I was very sincere in my invitation. If anyone finds themselves in Kingston, you have to drop by. You don't need an appointment. There's always going to be a smiling face at the door for you.
That's awesome. All right, everyone, it's Wednesday. The week's almost over. Oh, there you go. Terry's dropping by.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.